Welcome. This is the podcast series dedicated to living a revenue culture. Everybody wants to maximize profit, but the only way you can do that is if you first optimize your people. And to optimize your people to maximize your profit, it needs to be in a low friction revenue context. And today we're going to introduce you to Dr. Timothy Mantz. And Tim and I have worked together now for quite a while. And this is part of our series. We do two a month, and we bring you people like Tim who are doing things in the market you need to know. And some of them are being massively successful, and some of them are working on things we're working on. And in both cases, we all get smarter. So Tim is the Interim Dean at Alabama A&M University for the Business School and the School of Public Affairs. And he's student-centered. And I want to say Tim started, like many of us, in big corporate, and he was in marketing and really decided that his passion was education. So he went back and got his DBA and is really a mission-driven guy to bring together the world of business and the world of academe for the benefit of the students and the places they go to work later. So, as part of Tim's transformational work, he's actually brought us, Revenue Science, SmartRev, into Alabama A&M as part of their financial management curriculum at this point. And, there may be things we do together in the future. I certainly hope so. So with that, I'd like to have you welcome Tim.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. It's good to
Well,
see you again.
yeah, and I think Tim's the first person we've ever had twice on the podcast. And so this is his second time around. And because of the what's going on in the world, and for those of you who follow futurists, whether it's um, Burris or um, yeah, any of the others, they're telling us that Peter Zion's another one, that in America we had better figure out how to double our manufacturing capacity if we want to be able to continue the level of living we have today. And we better do it fast. And that has three variables in it that are critical: capital, which is going to be more scarce, technology, and people. And I think what Tim's working on definitely is impacting the people and the technology pieces coming out of the university. So that's why I'm so excited to have you here, Tim. Um, would you start by giving us a little bit of your background, because you've had a fascinating background that puts you in a really neat place to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, I actually was a creative director in Madison Avenue for a number of years. So big advertising was a background. I did some marketing, worked with some startups, took a couple companies public, turned a few around, and really was seeing that a lot of students weren't ready when they were coming out with the companies I was involved with. And went back to school, got a doctorate in business administration. A DBA is an applied doctorate. Harvard gave a DBA. Michigan has one. A lot of schools have them. It's applied instead of theoretical. So that was important to me. And so I jumped in academia, which was a total different world to me. And having been a vice president at some pretty large companies, they immediately pushed me into administration as well as teaching. But my goal was to teach. And what I found is I've been a dean for 16 years now, is that I can affect the classroom at a larger scale from this position. So I'm okay with this. it wasn't what my goal was in the beginning. And but what we've been doing is really making sure our students are prepared when they get out there and they have realistic expectations when they get out there. I mean, I've seen too many times students are seniors in college and they're telling companies they want to make $140,000. And they don't understand the value they don't have and the cost that they are going to incur to the company to just bring them up to speed and train them. One of the biggest fallacies students have is that, you know, they got this education. Some go straight through and get a master's today, and they have this education, and I'm ready to be a VP or a CEO. And they don't realize that when they came in, the bachelor's degree got them some vernacular and foundational things.
Yep.
And many times, if I've had a student in marketing say, um, in their total marketing hours I've had them for is equivalent to maybe a month of working time.
Yep.
And so when they tell me in this first 6 months of working, I learned more than I learned in school. Well, we gave you the foundation so that you could learn
Yeah.
that means we did our job. We did well. You were willing to learn, you were open to learning, and you grew. That's exactly what we want. It means you stepped in and went for it. You didn't come in and think everyone needs to report to you and you're going to tell them what to do, which we see still. I see that a lot. I hear that from companies, but the students I get involved with, we try to do things differently so they have a different approach.
You know, Tim, that approach is refreshing because, as you know, part of our work we have been measuring for 30 some years what we call the cost of the chaos to produce revenue. And half of that cost is cross silo conflict. And what that boils down to is individuals in engineering or finance or marketing or sales, they think they know everything. And all the other silos just need to bow down to their will and the life will be good. And they just don't get that teamwork or that learning or that collaborative communication piece. So, what you're talking about is massively important.
Yeah, the highly matrixed organization in theory, right? But in practice, you end up with silos that are not matrixed across. And we see that quite often. And we see quite often, one area perceives they know more than another. And and uh from a marketing standpoint, um many times marketing people are hearing from people things that they want, but they forget to find out if they'll pay for them. And I see that as the biggest error that happens. And engineering creates stuff because they can,
Yeah.
but nobody wants it. And so, with all the technology around today, we see that a lot. And so marketing and technology need to work together and with finance and make sure that what you're producing is produced at a cost that people are willing to pay and that you can make money.
Yep.
So, I mean, you start tying in all the other areas and if you can do that successfully and people are willing to humble themselves and be the part of this highly matrix organization, you can be very successful. And one of the things they talk about teams though is many teams come together where each individual has an IQ of 100, but together the team has an IQ of 65. And so, you want together to have an IQ of 120, but to do that, you have to be willing to relegate yourself and understand where your strengths lie. And that can be difficult, but that's where strong teams come from.
Yeah, well, that's why I get so much joy out of your approach to education, where you're helping people be open to learning and to understand that they bring something to the company brings something to the people, and both of them together should be bringing something great to the customer. And, I don't know why that's such a rare way to think today. All the things you said are too true. Um, one, we ask every client we have, tell me, do you make money from your customer or do you want to make money with your customer? And when people answer those questions, they really start to define their culture. And, just that alone of just recognizing your customer is who measures your value. You may have engineered something wonderful that the customer just doesn't care.
Yeah, in marketing, we talk about pain points a lot of times, especially when you're talking B2B, business to business.
Yep.
For consumers, it's pain points too, but consumers aren't rational, and that's an issue. But businesses tend to have to be more rational about what they buy, and so we have to be really careful and make sure that you are actually identifying things that will make things better for someone. And better is subjective,
Yep.
and better has to have value tied to it.
Yep.
Um, when you're dealing with consumers, value is different. Value can be pleasure. When you're dealing with a company, B2B, value has to be something usually more tangible
Yeah.
that you're getting back. And again, knowing what your customers' pain points are, and if you solve those problems, what difference will it make?
Yep.
And what's it worth to them? And again, if you can make them better off, they become attached to you. Uh, the right goal in marketing is always to build long-term relationships. I tell students, you want to get married, you don't want to date. This is not a speed dating thing. It's expensive to date. Marriage might be expensive, but dating's a lot more.
Yeah.
So that's what we hope for. And when we translate things like this to the classroom, what I've been able to do is I've been able to convince companies to come in our classrooms, some of them for an entire semester, and bring in real case studies, real situations. We have a Fortune 200 company that brings different partners in every week. It's a big consulting company. And the students, the first day when the students are there, they usually send half of them home because they tell them you're here for work and you're not dressed for work. And students know about this class because this class can get you an internship, and if you do well in the internship, they have a $10,000 bonus at the end of the summer. So students are like all over this, and but you see when the professionals are in there, they can say things to the students that we can't say or they won't listen to.
Yeah.
I was in week 3 this semester, and a student had cards in front of and was going to present a PowerPoint. And we had a partner down here from Chicago, a lady, and she said to the young guy, "Do you need those cards?" And he said, "Yeah, those are my cards for my presentation." She said, "Well, then you sit down. I'm going to talk to her. Do you need the cards?" And she said, "No, I can do it." And she goes, "Okay, so you didn't know your stuff. I'm going to listen to her. And if she doesn't know it, I'm going to talk to him. And if he doesn't know it, I'm talking to her." And trust me, we never saw cards. We never will see cards in the classroom again when they do that. And getting the interactivity with professionals changes them. They have to act different. They get really comfortable with us, and
Yeah.
we can tell them things, but when they get professionals in the classroom and you put demands on them, they react differently because it gets real for them really fast. And we are doing this with a number of classes, and the more companies that are willing to do it, we're letting them in all the time. New companies are talking to us, and I'm talking to them about how can you get involved. Because when I got here and when I got at several other schools, I was told our students weren't ready. They didn't really want to hire our students. And so my response to them is, okay, you need employees and you have a problem getting them. How are you going to help? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And here's ways I know you can help and make a difference. And when they're in the classroom, they're test driving, so to say. And I mean, these companies are picking their interns, and many times they are their hires. And the students who were hired last year, things are going well.
Yeah.
And the companies are saying, what a difference. We just had a career fair yesterday, 105 companies, and they were saying, we can't even believe we're at the same place. These students are so much more prepared. We started these ELO classes, where experiential learning, where we teach them how to present themselves, how to have their resume, how to get an internship, how will you act on the job, how will you dress. And so our outcomes are better. So we get them sophomore and junior year. And things are going much better because every student has to have an internship too, which a lot of schools don't do. We
Yeah. Yeah.
require that. And it makes a difference when from the time in the classroom to the, time on the job, when they're coming out, they're far more ready than they used to be.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's a
it
difference.
it's interesting, Tim, and this metric won't surprise you. We've talked about it before, and it's been around forever. Is revenue or profit per employee is a metric. And you can have multiple companies in the same industry selling the same product to the same buyers. And one of them, their revenue per employee is 100,000, and another one it's 1 million. And so when you look at that, the only the only conclusion you can come to is the capacity per person to deliver value is a lot higher in the $1 million per employee company. And that's really on leadership, and it's on selecting the right employees and having the employees come in prepared to uh, have a higher capacity to transfer value as a team. And not many places are teaching either to be the employee or to be the manager leader of those employees.
Yeah. And something I've had to drill into a number of companies, and I started doing this in South Dakota, and in Philly it was a big thing, and here's huge thing. I have to make them understand that a lot of students are coming out of these schools that are just atrocious. And so if they're going to say, I'm only going to hire somebody 3, 4 or above, what I want them to look at is, okay, if they came in, started with C's and D's in their gen eds, but as a junior and senior, they're A's and B's, you need to hire that kid because that kid is on the proper trajectory, going the right way. The one that came in and was B's all the way through, they're not pushing themselves. They're
No,
not. I know, but that's who you're hiring. And they're missing some superstars, some potential superstars. But they got to look at the whole picture. We actually have students who come in and they're on either a 5 or 6 year plan because they need to be remediated to that level. I've seen students who, were at math at a 5th grade level and they're coming out of the engineering program in 6 years and they're doing calculus and they can do it. They were just never taught.
yeah,
No one ever put the effort in. They came from places that were, I mean, the schools were just terrible. I saw it in Philly. We got kids from Baltimore, which is the worst school district in the country, supposedly. And when I left that school, they were going out the top 10% of the country.
yeah,
And my counterpart on the Villanova side, I was on the girls' school side, would say, well, our kids are going out top 10%. And I said, they're coming in the top 10%. Now they're coming in the bottom 25. I mean, I think we're accomplishing something. And
yeah. And
so,
Tim, that is so critical today because I think back. I have one of my degrees is in IT, and I can tell you what I learned in the 70s has almost no application today. And the difference, though, is today, whatever you learn 5 years from now, the technology is going to be so different. If you aren't a learner and if you aren't focused on how do I continue to grow myself and my team and my company and create more value, not the same value I created 2 years ago, but how do I create more value? If I don't think that way, um, my career is going to have a challenge, and my employer is going to stagnate.
So at the typical university, you have professors who want to teach what they want to teach, do what they done. And when you start bringing people in, employers in, and put them in the classroom, some of them are uncomfortable and they don't like that. But once they get in and do it with them, and if they're willing and they're open and they start seeing the outcomes, a lot of them come along. But I know on many campuses, they're like, no, those people don't come in my classroom. And me
Yeah,
coming out of the industry, I have a different idea, is that you don't know what I'm doing out in the street unless you come out in the street with me. And so this allows them, the advisory board is good. I mean, they hear feedback there, but to walk the walk with
yeah,
professionals and talk about the cases they're going to put the students through, and the experiences and the knowledge and transferable skills, the expectations they have, um, it's no longer theoretical, it's practical, it's
yeah,
practice. Here's how we take this, here's how we do this. And that's what we want to do. We want, and that's how we make these kids ready. I mean, the theory is important because it's foundational, but let's show them how they're going to use it. And when you have these companies in here, they tell us, okay, the kids need Excel skills. The kids need to be able to use AI. And here's how we use AI. And here's how you don't use AI.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so they force you to stay up current. And what's nice is a lot of times they help you get ahead. So here's where we're going. How can you get there? And then now all of a sudden, the stuff your people are researching on is very relevant to keeping you ahead, rather than, oh, I always publish on
yeah,
consumer
yeah, yeah.
behavior. So
Do you find it goes the other way, Tim? And by that I mean I've been blessed to work with my grandson for years. And in the last 4 or 5 years, he's educated the heck out of me on things that I don't even look at. The social media things today that really aren't terribly relevant to my life. But he's showing me how we can advertise in there and how we can get people to follow us and review our book, and just an amazing number of things that I just wouldn't even addressed. So do you find the students kind of open some eyes on the business side as well?
yeah, graduate students especially. If you teach a grad class today, and you're not getting the students who are coming right out of their bachelor's, um, you get people with 5, 10 years experience, which is the bulk of who's going to grad school today, and they have a lot to offer and a lot to offer each other. So, I mean, they're teaching the faculty at that point as much as, I mean, the transferability is a lot. Now, if you come back to most schools, okay, most schools, kids are working 20 hours a week, about 70% of the population, 20 plus. The school like I'm at now, it's 30 hours a week. It's 70 some percent of the population. And those kids are getting real experience. I mean, companies are paying them $20 an hour, $30 an hour. I mean, we got Walmart putting our kids in a management training program, whether they stay or not, for $25 an hour. We have two Sam's Clubs here that are run by two alumni, and they tell me they make the guys who run them make over $250,000, and they get a piece. piece of the store, and the smaller store does 140 million, the bigger one does 250. So even a little piece of that is a incredible piece. So we have people going to places, and people don't even realize it. There's a store, I don't know if it's called the dollar store or
Yeah.
whatever. We've all seen those yellow stores.
Yeah.
That's a Fortune 100 company.
Yep.
So when they came onto campus at first, I was like, yeah, do we want our kids going there? I started looking them up. They're a Fortune 100 company. Yeah, you can hire my logistics grads. You're going to pay them 90,000 right out of school. Yeah. Um, they were the high bidder for several of them, and I just thought, wow, that not the company I thought it was, and you start looking into some of these opportunities in places. We have a guy who's an alum who was a CTO of Walmart. He's actually CTO at another very large company right now, but we have people who go into these places and you don't think, what they're going to be. We have a Honda plant nearby, and something like the fourth and sixth people rank wise in this plant that kicks out almost 2,000 cars a day are alums, and students had to learn that you can go there. And if you go there, and we have a lot of car manufacturing down here in Alabama, but if you go to one of these auto manufacturers, I was talking to one of our engineering grads who's a mid-level manager down there. He runs one of the lines. And he said at first he had a little attitude because he told them when he started 20 years ago, he had to work all the different jobs on the line, every single one. And he said, you know what? Every now and then I go back to make sure I know because it's changed. And
Yep.
so he said, I know what's going on. And so a lot of times students and people don't even know where the opportunities are. I mean, this guy was telling me he's making like 140,000 a year and he gets a free car every 2 years. And I was just like, well, I need to work for you, right? So, and Mercedes is here too. They do the same thing, and the people love working for these companies, but it's not, what you first think of. And
Yeah.
and so
Well,
so
growing up
yeah.
in the auto industry, I have appreciation for that. Uh, you know, question for you. Yeah, as you have in the 2 years you've been at Alabama A&M, your student population has increased. Is that
Double. Yeah.
double?
Well, in the
And
business school, it's doubled. At the university, it's up about 15%.
so when you think about doubling in the School of Business, is that a national norm or are you?
We're countercultural.
So tell
Most,
us a little bit about that because that's,
even,
both it's something you should be very proud of, but and what lessons are there in there for us?
even the other schools around us are in decline. Um, yeah. So I mean, having the industry relationships has helped, and because employers have families and kids and alumni, and all of them talk, and that all helps. But the biggest thing is universities don't market well. And the day I started, uh, another Madison Avenue guy started as our marketing director, and he came from the account side. I came from the creative side. We have worked together to traditionally market the university. The university had Super Bowl ads. People were like, "You guys paid for Super Bowl?" Well, they were regional. We had Nashville, Chicago,
Yeah.
Huntsville, Birmingham, Pensacola, Florida. We had Atlanta. We picked our markets, and they were markets that we draw a lot from. We're on the radio. We have TV ads regionally at certain times,
Yeah.
and and Ollie and I worked together, and you know, he hired a agency, and we've been doing traditional marketing. So there's been some TV and radio, and the only ones who do that really are the for-profit schools. There's a couple nonprofits who are kicking in now with like Purdue Global, which used to be
Yeah.
a for-profit. They bought a for-profit. Um, you know, Maryland's World Campus.
Yeah.
Arizona State has 150,000 students online, and they ran radio in all 50 states.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so these schools, because they're having trouble with campus growth and revenue growth, they're a few of them are learning what to do. And I think, you know, the business school has grown way more than the other schools because of our relationships and the partnerships we built. Um, we've been able to go out and talk to different groups. We have people going to high schools too.
Yeah.
And it all makes a difference. You know, sitting in an accounting class at high schools, tying into some of the clubs they have. And because of that, people are wanting to come here. Our profile's up, our reputation is up. Um, Everything in the community and in the region, our reputation is strong, and people are now wanting to be part. And the business school's been getting the big chunk, and I think a lot of it is because we do spend a lot of time involved with the community and the business community, and students are hearing what we're doing. Companies are coming on campus and doing things and being involved, and the word's out there.
Yeah. And Tim, one of the things research in general, and certainly our work shows, is purpose is really, really, really important. Could you talk a little bit about the purpose of the business school and of Alabama A&M, and if you think that's having an impact on your success?
So something we found, and I can go back to when you and I met back around 2013. Uh, in Florida, we had a population that was relatively poor. ESL was an issue. And it wasn't just Spanish. People think it was Spanish, French, Creole, several other languages, and several dialects of Spanish too. And what what we found there in South Dakota is if the students don't have a purpose, if they don't know why they're there, if it's not something bigger than I just want to get a job, it has to be, what's my life gonna be? How is this? And and many times when they come to school, it's just, I'm coming to school because I know I have to get a job. And by the way, I have a job already that I'm working at, you know, retail store or whatever. And some of them have two and three jobs.
Yeah.
And and their purpose at that point is survival, because that's what it's been all along, is survive, survive, get an iPhone. If you got an iPhone, you're successful. If you got a car, you're successful. And and you have to get them to understand that's not life.
Yeah.
That's not going to do it for you. That's not long term. There's much more bigger. And when we can bring these people in, um, we have retired generals from this school who we bring in the classroom, retired colonels. We have people who are vice presidents. We have people like I told you, chief technology officers. We have people who've achieved at high levels, who are VPs, who are doing things around the country. And we, if we have to, we zoom them in. But if at all possible, and usually it seems possible,
Yeah.
we stroll them in. They
Yeah.
walk right in, and and you know, half the time the kids are like, "You're a general," or "You're," you know, and you know, or you were at the top of this company,
Yeah.
and you know, or you started and sold this company, and they're just they're they never really saw themselves in that path. But when you tie into alumni and you tie into local business people and you find people who look like them and you bring them in, they relate and they start. We have a young lady who was a partner at a big consulting firm, and she's like 40 years old. And um, man, and she's great with students. She looks great. She sounds great. She comes in, and I have students who, when she comes in, her name's Siobhan. When she comes in, students say, "I want to be her. I want to be her." These, and when the guy comes in who's the CTO, I know he doesn't want me to mention his company where he is now, but students say, "Wow, yeah, I want to be him." I saw him drive up in the Range Rover. Yeah, I want to be him. He told us about his beach house in Florida, and he's got another house in the Carolinas, and then he lives somewhere else. It's like, who has three houses? He does. So, you can be this, you can do this, and all of a sudden they and then we got to tell them that money can't be your purpose, because you'll never be happy. Your purpose has to be bigger. And we try to teach them over time that if you're self-centered, you're going to have depression issues and you're never going to be happy.
Yep.
But if you focus outward at helping others and moving others forward and making things better, you'll move forward too. And that really resonates with a lot of people. Some people have to learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
Other people start to see it paying forward, and we try to build it in as a culture.
Tim, I don't know how you would do a study to measure it, but my guess would be the way you're describing um, nurturing the students and giving them experience and helping them approach things differently. I bet they make better decisions of where they want to go to work. That when they see a company that doesn't have a purpose, that doesn't value people or doesn't, really get up in the morning to transfer value to their customer, I would bet your students see that clearer than some other people do.
Yeah, we actually bring a few different people in who tell us about the biggest mistakes they make in their life. And these are people who've been fairly successful too. But um, all of them, I would say, have talked about taking a job for the money.
Yeah.
And all of them, I had one guy tell me, he said he knew within the first week that this place was horrible. And it wasn't worth the money. Um,
Yeah.
and he said he stayed 6 months, but he saw a lot of people leave. Everyone was miserable. Um, and he said, he went somewhere else and this was like 20 years ago, for 20,000 less, and was way happier.
Yeah.
And so we try to tell the students, if you chase money, that's never going to be the thing that's fulfilling for you. And so they really need, but hearing it from other people
Oh,
help.
yeah.
But when we have these populations at the last several schools I've been at, where you have heavily welfare populations, money's important, money's survival. And so what we need to teach them too is when you have it, you don't spend it. Because when you're poor, that's what you do. I have it, I use it because it's going to be gone. Um, and so we need to teach them, that things are different now and you need to manage. And in some schools, we're hoping to get it here, but in my past, we have put financial literacy courses into place. In one place, we used the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book,
Yeah.
which is really funny because the poor dad's a college professor.
Yeah.
So there's there's a lot of good in that though,
Oh
understanding
yeah,
good debt and bad debt.
yeah, yeah. Okay, this has been really, really good. So as we wrap this up, what should we be thinking about going forward? You know, there are all of these social things, you know, whether it's AI or you know, whether it's the generational transitions or whether it's the fact that literally in the world, the major companies or countries, China, Japan, Germany, their populations aren't replacing themselves, and they're at great risk. What should, you know, as a head of a program at a university, what should everybody be thinking about, the employers and the students?
Well, I think my message that I give to everybody is think about how can you give back. I mean, so often we hear people complaining about schools, public schools, universities. Okay, who's going to fix it? You know, we all like to talk about it, but when you get involved, if you're a corporate person and you get involved, find out what they're teaching at your schools. Find out, you know, you're dropping your kids off. Are you sure you're okay with what's going on inside there? Um, are they preparing them with the skills and knowledge they need to be part of society and to be, you know, create value in our society? That's, you know, that's what we want people to do. You know, when the last several schools I've been at, and I've been brought in to be a change agent, you know, brought in to make things different. The communities were all upset at them. And, you know, I had to go back to them and say, okay, so what are you going to do about it? I mean, if we leave it as it is and you just bring me in, how's anything going to change? You guys have a lot, and what they don't realize is they have a lot to give.
Yeah,
There's a lot that um and a lot of times they'll say, well, I'm not prepared, I don't know what to do. I'm like, walk in the classroom, just tell them about what you do every day. That's a good start. We'll start there. And you know, tell them about the expectations you have for people that walk into your business. And you know, I would hear from businesses, and I heard this over the last 20 years. um, I don't want to put a new grad in front of a customer for at least a year. And to us, that's a disaster.
yeah,
That means, you know, okay, we could have prevented that. How can we do better? And if we work together, we can do better. You know, only you know what you want. If we keep our little
yeah,
box over here and your little block, we're siloed, right?
yeah,
But when you break down those walls and it makes everyone uncomfortable, the faculty are uncomfortable, the business people are like, I've never been in a classroom. I don't know how to talk, you know, just come in and be yourself and tell us what you do. Operate like you do in business. I've been so impressed with the companies we're working with because they come in and this some of a few of the businesses came in and were too nice in the beginning, and the students will roll you. I mean, they really will,
yeah,
and they realize pretty quick, okay, you know, we need here's the ground rules. And they said other companies came in and they're like, we're not messing around. Here's here's how we train our employees. You're being trained just like that, and you either cut it or you don't. And the more we are honest and straightforward with our expectations and letting the universities, the elementary schools, high schools understand what we need and what the expectations are, the more we can be successful. There are schools, there's a school, a Catholic school in Philly, in North Philly, Crystal something, and those students work 2 days a week. So they go to school 3.5 days, but they work a day and a half during the week, and they come from a poor neighborhood, and that has helped retention in the school.
yeah,
That has helped outcomes in the school. So there are different ways to be successful, and it's not going to be exactly the same for everyone. And if we're willing to look at what those differences are and actually approach
Yeah.
things differently, businesses can tell us how they're teaching their employees and how they're engaging them and where they're having trouble. And we could tell them where we're, and together you both get better.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot we can do.
And Tim, I really appreciate that approach because one of the things that's hard, and the older I get, the harder it gets, is to recognize when I should change. And if I only listen to myself, well, I shouldn't have to change much at all. But when whether it's students or when I speak and I'm talking to people who run companies or, just hanging out at a network event, if I'm willing to listen to those other people, it's amazing what I can learn that I didn't even think I needed to learn, but they help me with that.
And as an academic, a lot of times we think we know it all. We think, oh, we have the answer for this. And one of the coolest things about AI is when I'm teaching a class, I'll go down a path. Here's how you should do it, right? And here's the literature that supports my thinking. So I'll write all that out. And I'll write out this long, here's how this works for this problem. And I'll put it in AI and I'll ask, challenge my assumptions and use academic literature to support your argument against what I'm doing. And if there's more than one way to challenge it other ways too, but make sure that you have backing for all these arguments. And it's changed the way I teach. It changes the way I look at things. I was like, well, okay, yeah, this is a majority, but some people are being successful this way, and they're being successful this way in this context. You need to know that.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a better teacher, you need to know that.
Yep.
And a lot of times we're blind to that because
Yeah.
here's what we do and here's what's worked for us. And so you have these tools out there now that can force you to throw open the door
Yeah.
and look at places you would have never looked. And
Yeah.
it's been great for me. It's been
It's
a great tool.
and we're running out of time, but that one is so important because you started out in the conversation today recognizing the difference between B2B and B2C. And it's interesting when you're having conversations with people and they tell you, well, this works perfect. Well, it works perfect if you have a, retail bakery in one location in a particular city, at a particular point in history. Now, it may not work quite as well if you're trying to scale it nationally in a different decade. And, that people tend to grab onto whatever that one experience they have or one book they read, and they don't recognize there are other ways to think about this. So I applaud I hadn't thought of using the AI in that manner, but that's wonderful.
Yeah, what I find is the more thoroughly you write. So most people, when they write a prompt for AI, it'll be tell me this.
Yeah,
For me, my prompt is usually 2.5 pages long.
yeah,
It's tell me this within this context about this and that. And then one of the most interesting things I believe is I ask it to ask me at least 3 clarifying questions. And it will ask me, and if I think there's more, I'll say, well, ask me a few more.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and then you start to get some really good information.
Yep,
And I always have it cite the sources that it pulls from
yeah,
because I want to know, are you pulling it from some crap or is this,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and and a lot of times when I have it do that, I'll pull it out of chat and put it into Gemini, or Perplexity always cites its sources. So I
yeah,
like
yeah,
Perplexity. And I'll put it in Perplexity and check the sources to make
Yeah.
sure it's not making them up. Because if you use Claude, it'll make it up most of the time.
Yeah. 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 Well,
So
Tim, this has been great, and I'm certainly glad we brought you back for a second one because we got into so much more cool stuff than we did even the first time. And any last word you want to leave us with?
no, I just hope, I mean, if the last thing I'd like to say is please get out there and get involved in your communities, in your schools. Um, we can all complain about them, but we also can all make a difference. And please, please, do what you can and you'll help change the world.
Well, thank you, Tim, and thank you for the audience to being with us today. And this has been exceptional. And Tim and I have known each other for a long time, and I learn stuff every time we do these. And so, thank everybody for being here. We'll have another one in 2 weeks. And if there's anything we can do for you in the meantime, just please reach out. And all Tim's contact information is there. So if you've got some academic planning of your own or for your family, you can reach out, and I'm sure he can give you some good direction. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.